Okay, cool. We will kind of jump in with you, Steve. Let's start with you, California native. Can you walk me through recruiting and what that was like, and ultimately why USC?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty easy choice to not go to USC. Peter made it readily available for me not to go to USC every step of the way. But ultimately, it was a good choice that I went there. But in all seriousness, no. I mean, I took only three recruiting trips. I went to see George when he was at University of Illinois. Really liked George. Really um, didn't really care for Illinois, to be honest, but I loved George, so I went there. So everything kind of worked out with him coming to SC. Went to Boise State because Greg Patton was somebody I was very close with. But I never wanted to leave Southern California, and the tennis world is very small, especially with my dad being in the world. So Peter and my dad were very close, and I've known Peter, I mean, basically my whole life. And SC was always a place I wanted to go, but it's a tricky world back in the dark ages when I was in school with scholarships and all these types of things. And very fortunate with how everything actually worked out. It really couldn't have gone better, quite frankly. From committing there to then getting some actual scholarship because one of the guys quit on the team. So I mean, easy to say everything worked out, but I was never somebody that wanted to leave Southern California because I grew up there. I wanted to play there. SC was always somewhere I wanted to be, and I felt like that was going to be the right place for me to kind of grow, mature, and really get a hold of my tennis game, which it's really easy to say now that that was the right choice. But, when you're 17, 18 years old going through this process, you don't really know what's going to happen. So I'm very lucky that it all worked out. And, with the guys he had on the team, with the facilities, with everything, it was just a special environment for me to really get better and play tennis and mature as a person because at 18 years old, you got a lot to learn still in this life, and was lucky to have guys like Robert on the team and help in that regard, right? Because you're spend pretty much all your days with guys on the team and a lot of the time with the coaches, but pretty much every second of the day with guys on the team. So very lucky to have a great balance of coaches, teammates, and to kind of help nourish and grow what came to be my college career and everything beyond.
Yeah. I want to open it up to Peter, George, and Robert. Peter, we'll start with you, but for the three of you, first impressions of Steve, whenever that may be, what were your
Don't
first
say
impressions of him?
wait.
Well, I
Don't
mean,
say
look, the
wait.
reason why I recruited him was his record in team competitions. I was loosely aware of, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but he basically every time he played a competition representing Southern California, he didn't lose. And, after coaching him for 4 years, Stevie, when he plays for something greater than himself, and I think you can see that throughout his career, he just rises above. And so, I mean, he was right there, one of the top three players in California, one of the top 20 players in the country. But look, you know, I mean, his dad didn't know he was going to become Stevie. Stevie didn't know he was going to become Stevie. I mean, there's no way you could predict the success he had. I remember Case Van Hoff was traveling. He came by practice, and it was like October. I was like, oh, let's see how good this kid is. And he went out there and beat Case. I'm like, okay, he's pretty good, pretty good. And by the way, like Steve never wins in practice. Like he's never won a
Still to
practice
this
match.
day.
And so him beating Case is maybe more of a comment about Case. Somehow we'll find a way to rip Case in this. So, it was obviously a great fit.
George, we'll jump over to you. Same question.
Well, I first saw Stevie when he was about 15 or 16 at a Southern sectional, and he gave a really bad line call. And I was like, man, okay, what's going on? And then he kept competing and he gave another bad line call. And I'm like, dude, this guy's, what's he doing? But as I kept watching the match, he just got under the skin of his opponent and he ultimately won. But that was just kind of the thing I left with. And then through juniors, you saw him kind of uh, get better, stronger, certainly chubbier. and longer hair. Um, but but one thing I noticed was Illinois hosted the sectional team championship, and Stevie played out there and won this huge match. And I told the head coach at the time there, I said, we got to have this guy on a visit. He is a gamer. He's from Southern Cal. We'll never get him to come here, but we have to have him come visit. So he came and visited, and he was fantastic. I didn't know him at all, really, other than seeing him as a player on court, and just a super guy to be around. And when I got the opportunity to go to USC, nothing changed. I mean, Rob was really welcoming. Everyone was really welcoming outside of Keki. But Stevie was great, and he just kind of took it all in. And we talk about Case and Rob and then Stevie. Case did his thing, and that created a burning desire, I think, for Rob to be better than Case. And then whatever Rob did, that created a burning desire for Stevie to be better than Rob. And those guys just kept pushing each other. And we didn't know what was going to happen with Stevie, but choices were made, and he just took advantage. And it was incredible to be a part of. And yeah, it was awesome.
Robert, we'll go over to you. What's first impression when Steve gets on campus?
So Stevie, yeah, chubby, out of shape basically, and very talented player.
Round
but
is a
the
shape.
most of
I
the-
remember that.
Very rounded shape, very rounded shape. But out of everything, like what was the most impressive about Stevie was he he was very aware of the situation at all time, and he's a very sensible guy, even though he will never accept that, and he plays tough, but he really can join a team and feel for the team, and that's not for everyone. You get teammates of all sort, and you kind of understand who pushes for his side and who's very selfish, or who just doesn't care about the team. And like coach said, like he really felt that and really fought for a higher goal, and for everyone. And you could sense it from the beginning, and I feel like that talks a lot about Stevie and the kind of human being he is. He's always aware of the feelings of your teammates, and he was always trying to do things the right way, even. And he will go and yell at teammates when teammates weren't doing the right thing, and he will go and say, "Hey, well done," when teammates were doing the right thing, basically. So as a teammate, he was a great teammate. Then once he arrived, he was a puppy, basically. He was a puppy, and not in the tennis world, but outside the tennis world. He kind of, but he jumped in right away, and he kind of absorbed the whole energy of college and the whole experience of college. And you could feel he wanted to be there. You could feel he wanted to experience everything, college-wise, tennis-wise, and body-wise, basically. And he evolved very quickly. And he kind of felt good on his own skin, and he knew he had so much to do, and like coach and George said, I kind of had a Case as my let's say, how you call that, padrino, how do you call that? Mentor, exactly, as my mentor. And as a mentor, as a player, obviously, because my mentors were my coaches, but as a mentor, that I could stay with him the whole day and show me the way and show me how to do it. And I felt like Stevie really was that guy where I could like show him what to do, how to do it, how to go out with like girls or whatever, or like how much to practice.
And actually, like, he got in shape very quickly. His tennis improved, unreal. His freshman year, unreal. He had an unbelievable acceleration, not only on his forehand but on his serve. And slowly he started to work on that, and at the end of the day, his sophomore year, you could see. I don't know where he made that jump, Coach. I don't know where he made the jump where he went from a normal tennis player to a non-real tennis player, because clearly his sophomore year, he was already one in the nation, beating everyone, and obviously he had to respect seniority, and he wasn't playing one in the team because I was there, and I was still kicking his ass, but but I could sense that he was better than me as a tennis player. He had more guns, he had more power on his forehand, maybe depending on the day, he had a better serve, and he was still a sophomore. So clearly, he left a very good impression of me, and we created an instant bond, and we were very good friends from the beginning. And I can keep going and not talk about the first impression and give my whole speech already, or I can stop here.
You can stop.
Okay, I'll stop now.
Well, I think the interesting thing is you said you showed him everything, did everything, but it is interesting, and he didn't join SAE. He wasn't an SAE, bro.
Because
I was more studious.
Oh, I
you have
stopped
love
it.
to be an SAE,
Yes.
Steve. You don't have love to be an SAE.
I was too busy hitting the books.
You would. Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Yeah, but he also had a girlfriend that wasn't going to let him to join a frat anyway.
Exactly.
Right? So
Yeah,
that wasn't happening.
Different times.
exactly. Different time.
Yeah. There was no girl ever before Kendall. That was it.
It's the only one for me.
I don't ever remember you dating anyone before her.
See?
So
True love.
She's the only one that counts.
Yeah.
she's the only one that would put up with you.
Steve, I when you arrive on campus, you're a freshman, Robert's a junior, you're paired together for doubles. What was that like? What intimidation? Was it a boost of confidence? What was that pairing like for you early on?
Yeah, for me, it's a boost of confidence because you come into a situation on a team, all you want to do is make your mark and contribute any way you possibly can. You know, I'm like trying to make the singles lineup, trying to make the doubles lineup, whatever, as an 18-year-old. And basically, when we start playing these fall tournaments and I'm, playing doubles with Robert, like that's a huge, confidence boost to me to go out there and play because Robert had just won NCAAs the year before. He was top 10 in the country in singles, one in the country in doubles, you name it. And, to have that kind of confidence to play those fall tournaments with him it gave me a lot of confidence just to know I'm going to be, especially on the team and be playing like some type of valuable role, which is all you ever want as somebody coming in, is to know that you're going to fit in somewhere and make a difference. So it was huge for me to have that. And, with Robert, traveling to these fall tournaments, especially my first few months, like, rooming with him and, seeing how he plays and competes. And Robert's older than me, obviously. So, watching him work, which is something I didn't quite gather, the work ethic needed off the court until I got to USC. And you just I was like a sponge. I just picked up all those things and really enjoyed that aspect of it. And, to get that vote of confidence from Peter early on to play with Robert was amazing because that just gave me the belief that I'm going to be on this team. I'm going to be competing and playing valuable, matches when the year goes on. So, everything is, one little step in front of the other, and all those little things just kept building my confidence. But that was a huge, huge piece to me coming in my first semester, was getting to play those matches with Robert and playing these big events and being successful.
Peter, back to you. How early on did you realize that pairing could be truly special?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I actually remember the exact day and conversation when I told Steve that I wanted him to play with Rob, and I could see like he was, because Stevie's always trying to be cool and calm, and he doesn't always, he holds things close to the vest, as we say. But I could see, wow, he was excited. And I said, "You're going to have to switch sides." And he's like, "I'll learn it. No problem. I got it." And so he switched sides. And, look, they're two great people, and they're two great tennis players. So the fact, look, we didn't know Stevie was going to be Stevie at that point, but we knew Rob was one of the better players in college. And, so once January rolled around, I mean, I remember trying to figure out, do we put him at 4? Do we put him at 5? And I put him at 4, and I should have put you at 5 because I think you lost that match, right,
Me, no.
Stevie? Wasn't
Against-
that first match
Sasha
Hawaii?
Heinemann, wasn't it?
Wasn't that Hawaii?
That's
Yeah,
the only
Sasha.
match I ever lost at home, by the way.
I know.
Yeah.
I know.
No, that was the week before UCLA that none of us wanted to play. We won 4-3 thanks to you. Robert, myself, and Abdullah all lost match tiebreakers in the third set. Not that I remember. That's fine.
Peter and George, Robert had mentioned like the year-to-year improvement. What did you guys notice from season to season in terms of growth and improvement?
I mean, he just became a pro. Like like Rob said, like you've got to learn how to work, and not many juniors know how to work. And George said it, smacked it right on the head. Like, we had great leaders, and those leaders were always teaching the next generation. And really, to be quite honest, when Stevie left, we lost that. We lost that next group of leaders. And, it got really hard because, look, I knew we'd lose a lot when we lost Stevie, but all of a sudden everybody's bitching about the weight program, bitching about this, bitching about that. I'm like, wait a second, you're a junior on the team. You never said a thing for 2 years. And I'm like, oh, they weren't going to go against Stevie. But it was all kind of whining and complaining. And Stevie, really bought in and really believed. George?
Yeah, I think that sophomore year indoors was that was a big kind of oh my god moment for Steve, and also, as Rob said, Rob played one, and it didn't matter what Stevie was ranked. Rob was the top dog, and he was going to be there. And as the spring went along, Rob started preparing for life after SC, and so he got a little bit more edgy, and he got a little bit more focused on what he wanted to do after SC. And I think that relaxed Stevie more because he could be looser. Rob was dialed in on every single match. And again, Peter said leaders. I mean, competitors are competitors. There's one thing to want to be number one. There's one thing to say, I am the best here. And I saw a transformation of Rob that transformed Stevie. And Rob was the best player in the country his senior year. It wasn't for some crappy courts at Georgia where he rolled his ankle. I think he wins everything. He still won in the country at the end. But I think that made a statement to Stevie, like, all right. And Stevie welcomed it. He's like, all right, that was him. Now it's my turn, and I'm going to do it. And so I saw the transformation. It started at indoors. That was fall of sophomore year. And while Stevie and I did celebrate with fried chicken and donuts and Coke in the airport that we felt awful about after, he just started seeing, okay, this guy's taking a little bit more serious. I'm going to take it a little bit more serious. And it just continued to roll through. And so that was it. That was it. And again, case to Rob, Rob to Stevie. And while the guys who followed Stevie didn't have the same level, they still had to find themselves. And I will say, thank God that we didn't have NIL back then, because Peter would have found the money to give to these guys, and it would have created a distraction. I mean, girls were tough enough to fend off these guys, but they were competitors, and they had to figure themselves out and what they wanted, and they locked in and they went forward. And the proof is in what they accomplished thereafter.
Yeah. Steve, that leadership role when Robert leaves campus, were you always someone who could easily step into that role, or were you simply following the footsteps of him and carrying, what he had created?
Yeah, it's a little bit easier at SC. I feel like because you go there every day, you see who's on the wall, what type of legends are on the wall. We're the most storied program in men's tennis in the nation, and to walk by those every day, you want to have your impact on such an incredible program. But it just depends on all the guys on the team. Case before Rob, and then Rob for me, was huge because I was a captain as a sophomore. Rob was a senior, obviously was the leader of the team and the captain. But everybody knows their role. And that year, I would say I wasn't a vocal leader. My sophomore year, because that was Rob's job. Everybody respected Rob, and basically, he's been there for now 3-4 years. That we won a title. He had an NCAA doubles title, right? So he's been super successful. And Rob was the vocal leader, and he was like the, he was the guy. And even though I was one in the country, I didn't care. I would play 3 on the team as long as we won. I didn't really care. So that was like my sophomore year. Then my junior and senior year, when I'm there, and we had Daniel Nguyen, who was the other captain, I believe both those years. We kind of flipped roles in a sense, because I was a very vocal leader my last 2 years, and I made sure that guys knew that. But then we had Daniel, who would just work hard and basically listen to everything Peter and George had to say and do it, and basically never question something. We do it. But it was, you got to have that mix of leadership, and you also have to have guys willing to either listen and accept their role. And as a sophomore, I knew what my role was. I'm not the leader on this team. I was voted as a captain by the guys, but it was Rob's team. It doesn't matter what anybody's ranked. I don't think, as long as Rob was there. So that's how I looked at it my sophomore year, in a leadership role, just because. I had that to learn from Rob, and then I took it to my own way my last 2 years, and was very lucky that we had some guys on the team. We had 2 South American guys from Ecuador who obviously respected Rob because they knew him forever, and then they come in, they respect me. So it just happened to work out really well that we had such a good group of guys. But without the leadership from Peter and George, and then from Case to Rob, and then Rob to me, none of this is possible, really, because you got to have everybody on one, everybody's on one ship going in the right direction. And luckily we had everybody basically paddling in the right way. And, that's thanks to the guys on the team, the coaches. And, for me, it was Rob, because he helped show me what that is my first couple years, and I was able to kind of make it my own my last couple years.
Turn it back to the group now. As we sit here together, what moments, memories, stories come back to mind? Anybody can jump in here.
Rob, you go.
When I blew it for Rob in NCAA's twice.
I think I played great either. George, you know what? The tradition of eating crap after winning titles continued, because every time we will win a title with Stevie, we will smash Burger King. Oh no, McDonald's. Sorry,
McDonald's, baby. No Burger King. Come on.
On our way back to from regional, remember, Stevie? I think we spent $60 in McDonald's, which was a lot back in 08 or 09. And let's see, a very good story. I get all these stories from man, there's so many stories. On court with Eamon when he threw the basket.
That was when Rob and I were sitting there. Rob and I had a horrible practice. Probably must have been Rob's senior year. Or no?
It was a senior year. Yeah, it was senior year.
And our old volunteer coach Eric Amon lost his marbles. Peter could probably shine a little light on this. Threw the basket down, storms out, then storms back into the courts, picks up all the balls, then storms back out, because Rob and I were just having a Tuesday practice that wasn't maybe up to standard, which happened from time to time. I've been kicked out of practice enough in my day.
A big T. It was a big team. I do remember going out when we won at Texas A&M. We won our first title, and we had to play the next day, basically. And
We had opposite years of that.
yeah, exactly.
That year, Robert basically didn't care about singles, and I wanted to be All-American, so I didn't go out that much. But the next year, I didn't take it so seriously. George, did I? I think, the second seed at NCAA's, and I didn't try very hard against Ryan Williams.
Yeah, you had a tough match though for a first round.
Yeah, but it didn't matter. You wanted to win it that year, and you would have.
I wanted to win it that year, and I went to bed early.
Yeah.
That was a good story though. Back in A&M, like we went hard that night.
As you should.
Let's see. As we should, yeah. All right, Peter. Let me think a little bit. A very good story. Or George.
Well, I remember one that kind of set him on his way because he went down, and you'll remember who you lost to, Stevie, but you lost first round to All-American in Tulsa. Who was that?
Victor Kolick.
Really? Okay.
Which year?
First round, your sophomore year. It was.
My junior year, I lost to
that was.
I think I lost to Reed Carlton, maybe.
Yeah.
Reed.
Yeah, first round.
Big sir. Big sir.
I say to Stevie, hey, you're playing the back draw, and he goes, I don't play back draws. Like classic. I'm like, well, you're playing this back draw, and so it was not like he was not happy for those whatever 5 rounds. He was just
played out of
angry
spite
on the court. But I mean, he just didn't lose much after that, and he really got his game going. So for all you kids, you don't want to play contests, but sometimes it helps.
He always had this cockiness while competing that I think it was like a defensive mechanism, but at the end of the day, it worked out so well for him throughout his whole career. You know, he was very cocky competing, and you could sense that as when you will play against him, you could sense this too. It's like this guy really wants to like embarrass you, basically. Like he has no human side of it when he goes and competes, you know. He really, and basically
sometimes it was more personal than others.
Exactly, but basically when he lost that drive, once he was a pro, you could sense it was already like he lost it. Basically, he wouldn't feel the same competing. You know, he lost that fire. You know, but when he had that fire, oh my God, you knew you were gonna get destroyed by him. Basically, he had that cockiness, and that's why he would back it up a little bit like Kyrgios, without being a threat, basically, but a little bit like that kind of guy where you know if he talks it, he's gonna back it up, you know, with his trash talk.
Well, probably one of the all-time great stories. Mute Rob. And when we're playing Texas. We're playing Texas, and who are you playing at Texas?
Soren Olsen.
Soren Olsen. Yeah, George, you were on the court. I wasn't on the court.
Yeah, George was there.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
We were talking about our first year, the first year we won?
No, this is 2011, maybe?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, this is 2011. This is when you literally, you owned college tennis. Were.
Maybe it was 2012 even.
Yes, it was 2012. You were the mayor. And I mean, Ricky told me the story. And Ricky's the Texas assistant, and I guess he gave you a bad call.
Yeah, it was early in the second set or something like that. I was up a set in 1-all or something like that.
Yeah, and you said to him, "Hey, I just want you to enjoy the last 9 minutes. Just enjoy the last 9 minutes of this match." And Ricky's so funny. And Ricky goes, "I looked at my watch. And at the end of the match, it was 9 minutes."
And Steve,
George
you'll
was there.
appreciate this. I had a friend of mine that was visiting last week here, and he brought up that story. He was at that match, and he always brings up that story. He goes, "Poor Soren," you know.
Poor Soren.
Yeah, I mean, you just destroyed that guy. just
Don't
destroyed him. I mean, that's what a competitor does. I love I think I love the non-tennis stories more. The ultimate frisbee brought out the best, and I think this is where Peter got the credit of just how do we get the guys together to compete. And the ultimate frisbee was something we did religiously, even at NCAAs, and people were thought we were crazy that we'd roll our ankle or something. And I think that was all of those games were unreal and so competitive, and you could really see Stevie's competitiveness come out all the time there. And I
Yeah,
guess
he
one
would try hard in those
he
games.
would he certainly would try hard.
He broke my pinky when he threw it to me. It's too hard,
Yeah.
Stevie.
Yeah, I know.
Was
At least
was
use your
that the
left hand.
football or the frisbee?
That was football. That was the
Yeah,
last time we
that's
played football.
we stopped playing football. Case wanted to play football because he's like, we're at sea, we're a football school, we got to play with the football, and I'm like, that was a mistake.
Yeah, man, I need a drink to remember like all the stories. I've been trying to think of one, but I know I have so many stories that I can't really, off tennis. Like,
I'm really
outside the
I'm
tennis
glad
court.
you're prepared for this.
I mean, I'm sure we have so many stories. The 9/11. Remember the day we went to the. Oh my God! I'm not gonna mention the story, but I'll switch it.
The good ones you can't mention. The,
I'd like to share. I'd like to share another one if I can, or one specific one. Rob, do you mind muting, as it's a little tough to hear?
So loud.
We talk about Stevie and his ability to win and destroy opponents. This fun, happy-go-lucky guy who apparently never got stressed. And in his last championship, we're playing Virginia. I think it was against Virginia, or it might have been against in the semi. But you asked to talk to Peter and I, and this was
that
the
was
side
before
that
the
I'd never
round of
seen.
16.
Never seen this side of you, Stevie. And I think this again marks a true competitor because you are honest with yourself and you're honest with us, and just saying how stressed you felt. You had this long winning streak. You had everyone on the team, including the coaches, to say, if we win the doubles point, we're up 2-0. And if we lose the doubles point, we're at 1-all. And you broke down and just to say, I feel stressed. And you were just sharing who you were. And leaving that meeting, I remember looking at Peter thinking, wow, this guy just emitted something a little bit like kryptonite. And then you went out and just destroyed anyone anyway. But I think that's a piece of you that a lot of people don't see. They see a funny guy, um, with whether it was with a with the big forehand, the big serve, or a nasty slice. Everything just seemed to work. But I think that there was I don't know, this guy inside of you who wanted to say more, and you needed to say more. And I think that's what allowed you to perform at your best.
Yeah, but that was like our culture, and that he felt comfortable enough to
Yeah.
talk to us about it, and it was crucial because I said prepare to lose. I was the words I said, and I I felt enormous pressure. I cried. That probably the only time I cried in five of them was after that one because everyone questioned you for coming back. And I told George before the finals in 2011, we're not playing for one championship today. We're playing for two because I knew if we won, Stevie would come back because that's what type of person he was. That's how he was raised. That was his family, all of those things. And so, for him to be vulnerable and open up really, really helped him. But yeah, I mean, for me, I felt so much pressure because I didn't want that year to be a waste. And the only way it wasn't going to be a waste was for us to win. It was, we finished at 1:20 in the morning, and it was the longest dual match in the history of dual matches. It was crazy.
Steve, what do you remember about that stress, that mindset you were in, the conversation you had, and that tournament in general?
Yeah, it was the last one I mean, by far the worst just from that standpoint because I kept a lot of stuff in, as being, a leader of the team and, all these things like, during practice, you could already tell that everybody on the team, these young guys, they feel the pressure already being around, not necessarily being around me, but being around the program, having won 3 in a row. There's only one successful outcome for this team, but that week was hard because you're going to get to the round of 16. That was a no-brainer, and then it's like, all right, like we should win a couple matches, and then it's game on in the semis and finals. But I felt bad. I was food poisoning, stress fracture in my shin the whole week, and it just didn't matter to me. As long as we won the team. I mean, the individual obviously was important, but that was not even in my purview at the moment. All I wanted to do was win the team because there's only one other team that had ever done that. So, you're trying to make history with a group of guys, and you don't often get that opportunity in tennis. You make a lot of history on your own. You can share it maybe with one person, like Robert, obviously winning Grand Slams and doubles. You can share it with your partner, something like that. But in the tennis world, everything is so individual and it's brutal. So to have these moments with 10, 15 guys, the coaches, the staff, everybody included, try and finish something historic to a certain degree, which is what we're after. That was all that I cared about. So, I was willing, it's tennis, it's not that serious, but, I was willing to die out there before we lost, in my mind. And probably got close to that at a couple times during those 2 weeks, but glad that, you have coaches like Peter and George that are willing to open up and listen to you in those moments because, that's when you are most vulnerable, but that's when you need people that you trust in your corner who can help navigate and shift your goalposts in those moments. So I was very lucky to have those guys. And then those, you guys obviously took a lot of responsibility and, you don't think about it for me at the time, like the stress that you guys feel, because obviously everybody feels this stress, right? Like there's only one outcome, you're SC and you're there to win. We had won 3 in a row and, there was only one outcome that was positive. Making the semis or the finals was going to be a letdown for all of us, not in the, not overall for our entire lives, but in the moment for sure. So it's a lot on you guys. It's a lot on the team. It's, it's easy to look back with, with those memories, but in the moment it's hard for myself, but it's also, hard for everybody else. Cause I don't know what you guys are going through and, to, have to deal with me. I was a mess for the bulk of that 2 weeks, I'm sure.
But in that semi and final, I think you spent about 40 minutes on court per match. So
Correct. Yeah.
that worked
I mean,
out
I
pretty
played well. I mean, that helps, right? I played Clay Thompson in the semis. That was over quick. And then Jameer in the finals. That was also over quick. But that doesn't hurt for sure to not have a stressful, 3-setter. But, it's a lot that goes on to, because you can't be as successful as we were without having the team. I mean, that's not how college tennis works. And, I was worth 1 point every day. Like that was it. And, you need 4 to win. So without a team and the coaching staff and the people that they put around, because it wasn't always, it's not always getting the best player, right? It's getting guys that fit the culture and the program. And George and Peter did an amazing job getting guys that would be great tennis players, but, fit in certain spots of the lineup that could go out there and do exactly what they needed to do. Because there can only be one guy playing 1 and one guy playing 6, and those guys can't be the same. And so we had just such a great team. And without, Peter and George and, Peter Lucasen, late in, as a player and then as a coach at the end, like having that whole dynamic, and Eric Amon, like it's an amazing dynamic, and very lucky as a player, because I see that now in college tennis. Looking back, there's great teams, there's great players, but there's not a lot of amazing teams. They don't fit the mold of, everybody knows their role and knows their place and has a position and does it well. So it's the more I get away from it, the more fond I look back and see how special our teams were, from the guys on the team to how it was constructed, to the coaching staff, to how we worked, how we trained, the belief that Peter and George gave us. And as players, right? And Peter and I didn't see eye to eye all the time. And I think that was good for the team, right? That Peter's going to go at me hard and kick me out of practices or rip me after a doubles, a shitty doubles performance before singles. But, it was always fair, right? Like it wasn't unwarranted sometimes. But I think that's important, and the farther I get back away from it, the easier it is to look back and be like, very special to have the group of guys that we had and the coaching staff, because you got to have everything in conjunction with one another.
When was the last time you guys all got together?
I mean, Peter and I see each other quite frequently. Unfortunately, he's a big part of my life, I guess. So I see him a lot. Rob, I missed in New York this year. We're doing this kind of after the U.S. Open. I missed him. He was up there to play golf. I was there to be act. Saw him last year in Midland. George, it's been a minute, probably. Maybe last year U.S. Open. Now I can't remember.
No, a long time ago. I don't know when.
It's been
actually.
a while. It's been on my to-do list to get down to Alabama on for a football weekend, but unfortunately, with kids and a growing family, it gets complicated, as I'm gathering, for all parties involved. But the nice thing is, whenever we get together, it feels we talk all the time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't feel like we've ever skipped a beat, or I text Robert out of the blue to come do this, and it's like, when and where kind of deal. So it's this bond that we have with each other. We went through a lot of hard times together, but there's things that we'll always have that not a lot of people have with one another that we've gone through. So we always have those experiences. We're very lucky in that regard that we don't see each other obviously too often because it's tricky, but it doesn't ever feel like we skip a beat, or it's going to be uncomfortable if we get together with the core group of the guys on the team.
That's a perfect segue into my last question, and we'll turn it back to Peter, George, and Robert. How special was it to spend these years together at USC?
Rob, you go first.
I always say for me it's the best experience I've had in my life, or at least tennis experience, and I even compare it to Davis Cup, to winning slams in doubles, because I know Stevie's gonna accentuate the fact that it was doubles. So in doubles. But tennis-wise, I do think it was the best experience I've ever lived, and for me, I owe so much to my college experience, like as a human being, as who I am, as how much I matured there, as the bonds I know I can create, as how I learned how to speak English, or sort of. But for me, I created bonds that are as strong as the bonds I have with my Colombian teammates, which for me are like brothers for me, because I grew up with them and I did everything with them. Then I stopped seeing them during college, and I saw them again. But for me, those 4 years I spent in college were so intense that I was able to create those type of bonds, especially with the guys that are here at this phone call. George, I didn't spend that much time with him because he was there only for my last year, but I do think we have a very special bond as well, and we connected very well, but especially with Coach, with Stevie. I mean, I honestly could I mean, seriously, I could even cry, to think about like how tight we are, and with Case, every time I see Case, I just, whenever I see them, I really want to hug them and say like, dude, like it's so good to see you, and those are the things I live there, and I wish I try to tell every player that plays tennis, and it's not Alcaraz or Sinner, like, dude, go to college, but some of them just don't listen. Some of them do, but I don't. But it's what Stevie says, like, whenever you go to college, like, you just have to jump in with your 2 feet and just absorb the whole experience, you know, like don't think about like, I want to go pro in 20 years, and there's so many of those, but then it's like, dude, like you have so many years to go pro, and it's not easy, and it's like you need such a good level to make it. That chill out, enjoy what you're having for the next 4 years, and really, like what CV says, like learn your spot in the team, learn how you can contribute in the team, and make it. And that's what I think we had in our team. Like we had all these like great characters, and whoever wasn't the greatest character ends up not being in the team. At the end, it was kind of a blessing. At the moment, we didn't see it as a blessing, but afterward, we're like, man, everything worked out to have like the guy who makes fun of everything, and he's not a great tennis player, but he's like making us laugh at the whole time. We have the good tennis players, we have the good leaders, we have the guys that don't talk that much but do their job. You know, we had everything in our teams, and I really, honestly, it's like it's the best times of my life, and I wish I could. I honestly wish I could keep it in my brain so sharp that I could remember it every time as sharply as it deserves.
Awesome, Rob. Well, I mean, look, watching Stevie, I'd never been around a person, and I've never been around a person before that. I've never been around a person after that. That was just so confident. And Rob said it earlier, like he didn't want to beat people; he wanted to embarrass people, and it was ruthless. He was absolutely ruthless, and everybody knew he was going to win. And you know, there were a couple. We were playing match tiebreakers for third. I think you played 3 of them in your 72 streak, and I remember against UC Irvine playing Chris, and I was like, "Oh my God, today's the day." And you looked at me, and you could see I was stressed, and you said, "Coach, don't worry about this. I got it." But we had, you know, Rob touched on it. We had a foundation that was built on love, really. You know, the culture of the program was love, and you had to earn that. And you know that started. Look, first practice, you know, with Stevie, we're out on the field playing ultimate, game on the line. I went right, he went right. I pushed him down. I went left, got the winning touchdown. And he looked at me and he was just like, "All right, this is how it's going to be." So he was out to kick my ass for 4 years, and I loved that competitive nature, and brought it every day in practice and every day, you know, on the conditioning field. And but it was all done with love. And you know, we openly said, you know, we loved each other, and we would do anything for each other, and that brotherhood will go on until we're all dead. And Rob's 100% right. Like, you know, when, you know, I'm fortunate that I get to see Stevie, you know, a couple times a month, and you know, it's always special.
Yeah. And for me, I feel easily the best time of my life professionally. Um, I There's not a day that goes by now that I'm not reminded of the many things that I learned in Peter's car driving up from our neighborhood. But I learned so much from Rob in just that 1 year, from Stevie in those 3 years. I've learned a lot from you guys watching you since then. I do feel like it doesn't matter where we are. I would do anything for you guys. The love is there. I walk into my office every day, and I got these on display. But these don't come cheap. I mean, it took a lot of work. It took a lot of trust. I think the confidence was there because the captain of the ship is probably the most confident guy that I know in Peter, but he loved and was fair and challenged. And yeah, I learned so much of me as really a coach, but really as a person. My kids were infants there. Rob's now wife, Baylin. I mean, I remember seeing her wrap her arms around my kids, and I remember meeting up with Stevie later on after I moved to Alabama, and meeting him on when he was playing pro with my kids, and there was love, and seeing Peter this summer with my little kids are now 15 and 17, and there's love, and that's never ever died. So that at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. The rings are great to have. It's great to be part of history. I'm so lucky and grateful for what you guys did in my life. So
Yeah,
thank you.
and you touched on it, George, a little bit. The funny thing about it is, I haven't seen your kids since they were like 5, 4, but I could feel the energy and love they had for Tammy and I, except for your son's comment towards her. But it was really, magical.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Really, the last thing on my list is any final comments, thoughts before we wrap up our recording.
Yeah, why did I play 3 doubles my senior year?
Well, it just goes to show that, you need people in the right places. Steve Johnson, greatest player, history of college, was 2-2 at number 3 doubles.
Ah, that's true though. I was 500 down there.
Does that say something about your partners, or does that say something about you? Mikey Grant was ready, willing, and able. But yeah, I mean, I think we wrap it up with that. Like, I mean, just, Rob, you saying you could cry. Like, it is just incredible to see these guys virtually. I love them with all my heart and soul, and that will always be the case.
I see these guys every day on the walls at my house, so it's like I see them every day. Even though I don't see them every day, I see them every day. See their pictures up there. My wife hasn't taken them down yet, which is good.